Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, this is Joanne Victoria with another episode of the Sanity Project podcast. The Sanity Project podcast is a platform for experts in the self-development community to share their wisdom, expertise, and solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Our guest today is Nettie Owens. That's Nettie Owens, and her website is sappariconsulting.com. SAPPARI consulting.com. Certified professional organizer in chronic disorganization, Nettie Owens founded Sappari Productivity and Organization Consulting in 2004. Prior to starting her own company, she worked in a variety of positions for companies large and small and honed her skills in management, project management, customer service, instruction, and office administration. Well, I flubbed the word, but I'm going to keep moving, people. Nettie is a Hopkins graduate. She has always had a knack for working with people, coordinating projects, and getting things done. She loves to see your success. In 2011, Nettie appeared on the national TV in TLC's Hoarding, Buried Alive. She is a creator of the Take Control system. Her goal is to help you create an environment that supports who you are, what you are doing, and where you are going. Welcome to the show, Nettie Owens.
Thank you so much, Joanne, for that warm welcome. I'm just thrilled to be here today. Thank you.
Well, I am so glad you're here because you have information about how you are going to help IT professionals deal with time management and organization, because you say it doesn't come naturally to them. Can you tell me why?
Well, the reason that I say that is that there's just so many things to be focusing on, and a lot of times, as we are going about our work, we just hyper-focus in on the one project that happens to be in front of us at that given moment.
We do have a lot of other listeners besides only IT professionals. And I think everyone can benefit from what you have to say about how the brain works so they can tap into their best times to work.
Absolutely. The stuff that I'm going to share today, the information, would work for any person in any position, anywhere. And I'm so excited to be here talking about this in relation to IT, because that was my original background, and it's fun to be back in this arena again.
Well, we welcome you back.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, what do you say?
Well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit, and your listeners a little bit, about how your brain works, specifically how your brain works in relation to organization, time management, goal setting, working memory, future planning, and inhibition. And why I want to bring all of that up is because it makes a difference in how we decide what we're going to do in any given moment, and whether we're productive at work. So, we hear these messages day in and day out about eating our vegetables, getting more exercise. A clean, clutter-free environment is great for productivity, without truly understanding why those messages are coming to us and what they mean truly. At the heart of it, for our brain, I guess, so at the brain of it, and how we're going to do our work from a moment-to-moment basis. And so what I'm hoping to bring to you is a little bit of an understanding to the reasoning behind why those messages keep coming, and how they truly impact the work that you're doing. So to dive right in here, everything that I'm going to talk about is really going to focus on two specific areas of your brain. The first part I'm going to talk about is your prefrontal cortex. And if right now you had a video to see me, right now I've got my hand just laid across my forehead, my palm just straight across my forehead. And if I could touch my brain right now, I would be touching my prefrontal cortex. So that part of the brain is what we're going to focus on primarily. We're also going to talk about the part of your brain, which is your primal brain. And if you were to reach your hand back around and touch the base of your neck, right where your skull meets your neck, that would be the closest point to reach your primal brain. And your primal brain controls the kinds of things that don't require any thought on your part, and they would happen no matter what, just to keep you alive. So breathing, fight or flight response, a need to fall asleep or anything like that all happens within your primal brain. So that's the keep you alive part of your brain. And that makes sense, right? The first thing to develop is going to be the part of your brain that would allow you to exist. And so the last part of your brain to develop is actually that prefrontal cortex. And that part of your brain manages your thinking. It manages your ability to carry two thoughts in your mind and put them together. That's called working memory. It manages your ability to goal set and plan for the future, to inhibit certain actions, to organize your thoughts and space. And it's the last part of your brain from a developmental, like human developmental process to come into full development. It's also the most susceptible to any kind of outside environmental or chemical influence. And that makes sense, right? So if you imagine that somebody is hungry, or if they've drank a little too much, if they haven't gotten enough sleep, then what goes offline first is inhibition, the ability to make decisions and reason, motivation, and all of these things are going out the window, right? Because our prefrontal cortex has just gone offline. We like to say, for those people who are very well acquainted with this part of the brain, that it is like a conductor in an orchestra. It really pulls all the other parts of the brains functioning together. And so those areas can still be working and working really, really well, but without the conductor to say, okay, this is when you come into this beautiful symphonic piece, it's just going to be a mishmash of music that's going on. So your musicians may be playing really well, but if your conductor is not online and standing up there and pulling everything together, then you're going to have a hard time.
So what keeps the conductor alive, thriving? Yeah.
What keeps the conductor in his or her role right there at the front of the orchestra are actually a number of things, and you're gonna say, "Oh yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that that's a good thing." As soon as I go over them, but before I do that, I want to share that that this part of your brain and the conductor specifically requires a lot of energy to use. It requires your brain to be functioning at its fullest, at its best. So there are a couple things that may cause it not to function at its best. And from a developmental standpoint, there are some conditions that may be existing in your body that may just cause that conductor either to not function as well or not even be in that position at all. And those are things like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, anxiety, depression, PTSD, any sort of traumatic brain injury. All of these things can cause the conductor to not be functioning at its best. Okay. But those are things that we don't have quite as much control over. And there are a number of things that we absolutely have lots of control over that we can do to make sure that he is in place and ready to go. So that's what I want to share with you next. I really focus on 4 specific areas here that allow the conductor to do his job. And the first one is sleep. And this is very relevant for our IT professionals because IT professionals kind of have a reputation for not sleeping well, for staying up very late, or for sleeping in kind of erratic patterns. Would you agree?
That sounds like me.
You're pushing to finish a project and there's a hard and fast deadline, or, the others that are working with you are on different time zones. And so you're up in the middle of the night. So there may be a number of different reasons, but sleep is absolutely paramount to your conductor working really well. And 8 hours of sleep, of good quality sleep, are what they recommend to be in a healthy place for your brain. And the thing is, it's not just going to put that conductor in place, but if there are other challenges happening, it's going to raise the bar in your ability to handle them. So sleep is really, really important. And, I'm sure listeners right now may be saying, well, great, sleep's important, but I've always had a hard time getting good rest. And there are a lot of resources and research that's coming out recently to help with that. But a dark environment, turning off the devices about an hour before, making sure that you don't exercise any more than like 2 to 3 hours before you try and lay down, are a couple things that can help. And just making sure that your environment itself is conducive, that you have, a space that feels good to lay down and rest and relax in, and that the only thing you do in that particular environment is sleep. So those are a couple tips to help handle that sleep issue. So that's number one, getting enough rest. Number two is drinking water. And again, if we think of some stereotypical situations, IT professionals don't always drink water. They may be drinking soda or coffee or caffeinated tea. And so we need to focus on getting enough water. So that's the second thing. The third thing is food, and ensuring that we're eating food that is high in fresh fruits and vegetables. So you'll see a lot of information about getting enough protein and healthy fats and not processed food, which is amazing advice and definitely want to follow. But a lot of that stuff is going to be taken care of if we just increase the amount of fruits and vegetables that we eat, because there's just less room then for the things that we shouldn't be eating. And a little side note, most fruits and vegetables do include a bit of protein in them. Just naturally. So you'll be getting that too. The last area that you want to look at is exercise. The conductor loves to exercise and functions really well when he gets enough exercise. The recommendations are a half hour of exercise a day, which I know can be a big challenge. So I wouldn't recommend that people start there, but starting even with getting 10 steps in before you sit down to the computer, if you get up and move away from your desk, a minute of maybe jumping rope or doing jumping jacks or something like that can really go a long way to helping the conductor out. And this just adding that in as much as possible. The reason that exercise works is because it actually helps increase the chemical dopamine and other chemicals that help the synapses in your brain fire. So if you want your brain to work more quickly, then getting exercise is going to help you do that. In fact, if you have a condition like ADHD, studies have shown that exercise can be equivalent to some of the medications that are out there in helping to manage that condition for you. So when you are focused on those 4 areas, which I know can be a challenge, what's going to happen is you're just increasing your ability to make decisions, you're increasing your ability to organize your thoughts, and goal set, future plan, inhibit behaviors that are not working for you, and be motivated to move forward on the projects that you have.
Well, how can they tap into their brain to determine what the best times for them to work? Is that a possibility?
Yes, absolutely. So research is showing us that when you wake up, about an hour after you wake up, your brain is full on. If you've gotten enough rest, if all these other things are taken care of, and even if they haven't, if you've even gotten a minimal amount of rest, your brain is functioning best about an hour after you wake up. So that's a really good time. If you've got deep thought kind of work, that's the time that you want to focus on it. Throughout the day, your brain functioning diminishes until you're about 30% towards the end of your workday, which can definitely be a challenge. But you want to think about doing the kinds of activities in the afternoon that don't require quite as much processing. Whether it's checking and responding to email, maybe that's the time that you schedule your networking meetings, where you can get out and about and move around a little bit. That will tap into your brain's natural ebb and flow. And what I know, as I talked before, that sometimes, IT professionals will tend to work late into the night, and they say, well, I do well at night, I catch a second wind, or I can be more focused because there's less distraction that's going on. So looking for ways to recreate that nighttime experience in your daytime environment can really go a long way to helping your productivity. And you can do that by setting aside a space that's dedicated and quiet and uninterrupted, and letting those around you know during this time, for the next 2 hours, I'm going to be in deep work and unavailable to answer questions, answer the phone, handle email, and those kinds of things. You may be thinking right now, goodness gracious, 30% is quite a jump, or a degradation over the day. But the good news is that you can increase your brain functioning so that you don't experience that deep dip in productivity as your day goes on. And there's a couple ways that we can tap into that. So I like to call this productive rest. It's not uncommon if you're working really hard to say, oh my goodness, I've got this deadline that I'm working on, and I'm just going to push through and just hammer it out until I get it done, which may sound on paper like a great idea because you're going to be super focused and make that happen. But what happens is, as I said, that conductor is so susceptible to outside environmental and other influences, and requires a lot of energy to work. So if throughout the day you're not reinvigorating your conductor through productive rest, then your brain capacity is going to become diminished as the day goes on. And productive rest does not have to be complicated, but it's not a cup of coffee. It's not hopping on Facebook or chatting with friends or email or other technology-related breaks. It is not snacking on potato chips or anything like that. None of those are actually going to recharge your conductor. In fact, they can make your conductor a little more lazy. They may give him a slight boost, but then he's going to crash. So what we want to focus on in productive rest are those same 4 areas that we talked about that energize your brain, just in little short sprints. So it may be that you grab, a fresh apple with peanut butter, which is a great snack to reinvigorate your brain. It could be that you go for a brisk 5-minute walk outside. You might want to meditate or talk to a friend, sharing jokes, which can help increase dopamine in your brain. It could be things like even just looking at natural pictures, photographs of natural environment, or even the color green. Just taking a moment to focus your eyes on that can help relax and rest your brain. Stepping away from the technology and any other digital devices for a short time to give your brain a break will really go a long way. And anything that you do that really taps into those 4 areas, so maybe just getting a tall glass of water and taking a 5 to 10 minute break away from the work that you're doing, you'll find that you come back a lot more focused. And maybe even in that time, you gain some insight and new ideas into what you were working on.
I usually tell my clients, or most anybody that I talk to, if it's an appropriate conversation to have, but definitely my clients, that every 45 minutes they should break away from what they are doing in order to reboot. I never called it the prefrontal cortex or the conductor, but that the brain needs some shift, some change, some rest. And then there's some
Absolutely.
sleep. Yeah, and there's some sleep cycle data that goes into that as well that I won't even go into right now. But every 45 minutes at least, some people say every 30 minutes, but whatever, at least 45 minutes just to get up away from what you were doing. And since most IT people are glued to their computers or whatever device they're using at that time, they need that break because the computer represents more than just a screen and a piece of plastic around it. Represents a lot of energy, and that energy is gets sucked out of the observer. What shall I say? And that helps make you even more tired than you did in the old days pre-computers, so that you need rest.
Definitely. And you're right, that 30 to 45 minute interval is a great stretch. That if you find that you're not naturally coming to a stopping point at that point, just having an alarm on your phone to ding and say, time to get up and take a walk, get a drink of water, go outside for a bit. Any of those things can help recharge.
Yeah, just to shift the focus for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what else can we talk to our IT pros and other people about this time management and organization to begin to close this show? I want you to come up with something. I know that just for the listeners, and you can see it on my website as well as on my Facebook page for the podcast, which is the Sanity IT Project podcast. There is a video series that Nettie is offering free, 3-part video series, which is a 5-minute office makeover that she would love to have you listen to and watch. And you can access it directly from her site at Sappari, S-A-P as in Peter, P as in Peter, A-R-I, sappariconsulting.com. And just scroll down the homepage and you'll find the link. It's important that you do that. And if you do want to find out or hear or consult with Nettie Owens about this phenomenon that people don't pay enough attention to, they don't pay enough attention to the brain and how it's really supposed to work, how it actually does work, and how if you source it properly, it will serve you well. Go to sappariconsulting.com, S-A-P-P-A-R-I consulting, or you can email Nettie Owens at info@sappariconsulting.com. So what's prevalent in your brain right now that people need to hear, must hear in order for them to use their brains properly, in order to have their brain work to the best in whatever job they have?
Absolutely. So what's really coming up for me right now and that I want to share is everything that I just shared with you. If you take it all and try and implement it wholeheartedly all at once, you're probably going to run up against some of the challenges that you have faced in the past when you wanted to change the behavior that you are currently exhibiting. And that is, you'll probably succeed for a couple days and then you'll fall off the bandwagon because the excitement of all this new information and all the new systems and structures that you're putting into place wears off, and you fall back into old routines and patterns. So what I'd like to share is just that even if you implement one piece or one small part of what we're talking about here today, you will start to see changes that will inspire you to take other steps and make other small changes that are going to snowball. If you jump in with both feet and things don't work out, you're actually training your brain, oh, you know what, trying new things doesn't actually work out for me, and so I'm not really encouraged to do that in the future. But if you do something small and you're successful at it, then you train your brain that trying new things is a great thing, and if I start small, I can build on that. So I would encourage you to find one small piece of what we've talked about today that resonates with you, and to make that small change. I've seen clients make a change as simple as just taking time to think about exercising, which in a short amount of time built up to exercising daily for 7 minutes, which doesn't sound like a huge amount, but even that amount showed significant changes in his sleep pattern, which he was able to remark about. So small changes really do add up, and that's where I would like you to start.
That's perfect, because I think that people take on too much at one time, hoping it will work, and people's brains are not that different from one another in the sense that they receive information in a certain way, and if they receive too much information, they're going to block themselves from success. So in order for people who are listening to have more success, pay attention to what Nettie just said. Re-listen to this podcast, download it onto whatever device is perfect for you to listen to any time of the day. This is really vital for your health, for your well-being, and for your success and sanity. I thank Nettie for being here today. I want you, everybody who's listening, to go to iTunes and give Nettie a stunning written review, because she deserves it. This information, I'm telling you from my own experience, or lack of experience, and certainly lack of holding on to my conductor and having him or her do well, what she's saying is vital to your health, mental, physical, whatever. So give her a stunning review, because she deserves it. While you're at it, you can give the podcast itself a 5-star review. That just takes you one click, people, one click. And I want to thank everybody for listening. I suggest that you go to my website, askjoannevictoria.com, and download a free copy of the True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. I thank you, Nettie, for being here today. I thank the listeners for being here today, and I wish everybody a great day. Take care.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com and continue the conversation on her podcast page. And get a free copy of her book, The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.